Hi, welcome everyone.
Hello.
Today is Harnessing Your Power to Heal, OCC's Components of Care. So some of you have been coming to some our live streams. And if you haven't, there's some other ones you can take a look at. So today we're really excited to share with you what we do at OCC. We've been sharing, you heard Michaela's story, we shared sort of more about the biology of what our approach is, but now we're actually going to get into like, what do we actually do with people when we work with them and in our program, and what are the different elements that come into play and why and how we've put things together. So we're going to just mention at the outset that this is likely going to go over an hour. So if you're here with us live, no worries if you need to sign off. This will be posted on YouTube and Facebook. And we are going through, like we said, we're going to go through the different components of our program, and we're going to talk about them. So we'll have it indexed. So if you're watching this on YouTube later, you should be able to see below different sections. So if you're really interested in one particular aspect of what we're doing, you want to go back and just hear more about that again, you should be able to click on that, and then it'll take you to that section of the video today. So before we, start really taking you through each of the different pieces and explaining it, we want to just set the picture and a little bit of framing to give some context for every piece of our program. We weave in some really critical elements along the way. We're always cognizant, like everything that we're doing, everything that we're bringing to people in our program, we are focusing on creating safety and connection. We're focusing on really empowering people to understand your own physiology, how your autonomic nervous system shows up in your body, your symptoms, what biologically is happening in your body. And we really individualize our care. So I'm going to have Jess and Michaela sort of enhance those three aspects a little bit before we take you through all the different parts, to just say a little bit more about why. Like, why are we always thinking about safety and connection in really every single thing that we do throughout our entire program? Mick, do you want to start?
Sure.
With that, and then we can all chime in.
Yeah, sure. As you were speaking, I was thinking a little bit about the typical person who comes to us has often, especially in a medical setting, not necessarily had consistently safe feeling interactions. I even think the way that those interactions often, it's like, please help me. And there's like a pecking order, so to speak, like where it's kind of parent-child dynamic or something like that. We're really, like, from our perspective, each and every person is the healer and they are completely in charge of their experience. And it's actually really, really important that they work toward feeling empowered about their own health, and that every decision and everything that we do is explained and given some context, and that we really try to build that in. So to undo some of the other experiences and help people to begin to feel really held and safe on an assortment of different levels. Yes, you're someone I can trust in general, and which doesn't mean we do everything perfectly, but someone who I can feel safe to be honest with if my expectations aren't met, and that we're able to have all of that happening, right? I think, Jess can talk a little bit more about the biology. You said safety and connection, and that's true, but I'd like to say safety in connection, which is another way of saying relationally safe, and that the breadth of our program really centers on how to develop that, because it is the one area in our modern culture that is definitely neglected and poorly understood right now. And so we're helping to bring that into this direct experience, which is the foundation for shifting our biology over to what Jess will describe as the ventral vagal state, but it really is this aspect of our biology that turns on all of the capacity for healing and repair. So,
yeah.
Also, it feels really nice.
Yeah.
It's a much more experience. But Jess?
We always try to be careful when we're describing our program and the tenets of our program and the science behind our program to say, yes, we know that all of these things feel nice, but that's actually not why we're doing it. It's not about kind of the psychology of like, yes, it's so nice. It's so nice to be, yay, connected with people and, yay. It's really because the biology, your healthy physiology depends on it. And one of the aspects of Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory is, it's kind of the science of how our nervous system evolved, and that our most recently evolved branch of our autonomic nervous system called the ventral vagus and the social connection system, I think. Is that right?
Social engagement.
Social engagement system.
Oh yeah, thanks. Social engagement system. Sorry about that. I knew it didn't sound right. That branch of our autonomic nervous system, which is uniquely mammalian, it evolved as mammals evolved about 200 million years ago, that literally our wiring is, designed. I mean, I don't want to say designed, like no human designed it. But, it evolved in such a way that since mammals need the care of an adult in the species when they're brand new infants, literally our wiring requires that and requires it throughout our lives. Like we really do require connection. And we require safety. Because when we don't have safety, we revert over to the survival systems that are our more primitive autonomic nervous system branches, the sympathetic fibers or the dorsal vagal fibers. And we have gotten into those in other recordings, so you can learn more about that. But I think today we really want to focus on what do we do, and I want to hit home that why we do it is because our biology needs this. And as Michaela indicated, it's something we really don't do well in our culture. So it is room for growth in most humans, or all humans probably. And in order to turn on the healing that your body does know how to do and want to do, it wants to do it. I'm not speaking well today. In order to turn on the healing that your body knows how to do and wants to do, we need that safety in relationship and we need connection. So that's why we do.
It came to mind, actually, if I may, just to say, Allie, we are hardwired throughout our lives. We're all adults. And one of the reasons why public speaking is so difficult for a lot of people, it is an extremely common occurrence. And I'm watching Allie rock gently, which is like one of our self-soothing things that we teach at OCC. But the truth is that the reason why, and this is, we have some exceptions to this, but primarily almost everyone has nerves that come in if they're coming into meeting a new, even a smaller group. But certainly if something's being recorded or there's a live audience of some sort, the nerves are really intense. It feels very threatening. Stephen Porges talks about evaluation is something that always puts the system into a state of protection. And that also we are hardwired to need the acceptance of our tribe to survive. It's a biological imperative. So even this, intellectually, we might understand this is relatively inconsequential and people, I have things to share that one-on-one I'm really comfortable sharing. But when we get into this larger audience, it can feel really threatening. And so to anyone who even relates to that experience, as Allie is feeling right now, that's the reason why and that's because it is that biological imperative to be accepted and safe in relationship to others, even people we don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just picking it up.
So let's say just a tiny bit more about how our approach throughout our whole program is that we're really shifting the paradigm from people coming, to a provider and we treat you and we're the ones that make you better, to we're flipping that, and it's like we're empowering you, we're giving you the education and the tools and the practices so that you can understand your body and you can feel better for the rest of your life, right? So that's really what our goal is to set you up so that you are your own healer and we are just accompanying you. We're your companions and guides along this journey. And that really informs, again, all these different aspects of our program. Is there anything else you want to say about that, Jess? Because I think you the most, like, coming from, family medicine, nurse practitioner paradigm to really how we are approaching it. It is a really different, it's a real shift there.
It really is. It's really, really important to me, based on my experience in primary care for so many years, that, and I guess, as I think about it, it's like, oh no, like it's actually kind of almost sad. What I love in primary care is building a relationship that is longer term, right? Building collaboration with your people who see you as like their go-to, so that part is wonderful in primary care. Here we are, your kind of intense go-tos for a season in your life. And people are generally coming to us in a season where they're really unwell and they've not been able to find the healing that they've been looking for in lots of places. And so it really is a privilege to be present in that season with folks, and so incredible to kind of help be part of the team that empowers them to launch out and continue healing on their own. Because once you get enough traction, meaning once you access the ventral vagal fibers enough that your body starts that healing that it does know how to do, you can't stop it almost. That's not quite true. You could stop it, but it's so fun to watch the spiral up into health, as opposed to what so many folks have been experiencing of like, oh no, something else. Oh no, something else. And
I'd
so,
like to say, oh, go ahead, Jess,
Yeah.
please.
No,
Just that I think a lot of what we do, we use the word education, but it really is that there's relatively new science to help us understand the experience of being human with this biology. And I think that's part of what we're doing, is helping to explain why things are happening. Most people who come to us, they've seen, you really underplayed it. Most people that have come to us have tried everything. They have seen everyone. They've received really good care, competent care in a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. Some not so competent care, maybe, but also, people have really seen a lot of people. And you were one of them, Jessica, who you have said in previous, recordings that we've done that, some people got significantly better, and you were certainly giving very excellent functional medicine care. The issue is that when there's an obstacle, we're trying to point out and resolve what are the obstacles to healing. Because again, as Jess mentioned, we can see it's very evident. Our bodies want to heal. It's really just like, how do we remove the things that are preventing us from being able to heal? And again, that speaks to the people that have tried all of these different things, even really good interventions. This really is the key that unlocks the ability to have even those other types of interventions become effective.
Yeah.
And then just to underscore that last piece that I mentioned, that again, we're always thinking about with all these different aspects of our care, is that we really individualize our care, both for each person, each group that we might be working with, each class. And I think, you can get, when you first sort of say, oh, well, everyone gets these memberships, how do you know that that's going to work for me and what I'm having and my symptoms and my past and and the care as we go through these different elements that we bring to everyone. These are our membership, these are programs that we put together in our memberships. We're so individualizing it to each person's, the particular manifestation of that physiology in you as a person. And what we're able to do is that there's some things, like as we've talked about in our other recordings, that just biologically as human beings are consistent for all of us. So we're able to sort of leverage both of that. And one of the things that we really love doing and gives us so much gratification in the work is individualizing it so much, whether it's a class, oh, this class is, they really need to, like, I think if we bring this to them now, that'll help, right? Or on one-on-one sessions. And so you'll hear us speak to that again as we go through our different pieces. So
it's not unheard of that we are completely like changing a class.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, this group, actually, we're going to do this now. Really meeting everyone where they're at in real time. So,
and I'll even add
it's not a static program in that way.
No,
it's
not
very
at all.
adapted.
Right. Another way of looking at it is also the particular manifestation of an individual's obstacles. They're all those, in fact, might even be more unique, more specified to them, what is happening in their life, the container of their particular situation, and what they have or don't have for resources. All of those things are very, very individualized. Yeah.
So I think now we'll start taking you through, what do we actually do? What happens here? What do we do with people?
I thought of one other thing in the terms of safety that I thought that Jessica and I worked really, really hard, again, through my lens of being this long-term patient who was desperate and trying to find help in all of these ways, really working together to identify things that created more fear, more threat. What are all of the different ways? And just to name that, we have really everything from having our pricing available online so that people can see it. And it's not like, call and we'll talk to you. And, like, we just wanted to be extremely upfront. Likewise, even the way we structure our payment program, which initially concerns people sometimes with like questions about why this, but that we're really so thoughtful about not wanting to create a scenario where people are experiencing threat month to month to month. Part of having a longer program that you can rest in is creating a container of safety, because healing takes time. And if we're constantly evaluating, we talked about evaluation puts you in a state of protection. If literally every day, every week, every month, we're evaluating, how am I doing relative to the, where we want to be, and that we're spending money sort of commensurate with that, it becomes extremely stressful, like about wanting to maybe like change your mind and back out. Having a container to rest in, a healing that we know and through experience have seen is adequate for being able to experience the healing shifts that need to happen in the physiology. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mick. That's really helpful too.
Yeah.
In terms of orienting folks.
Yeah.
To like, why do we have things set up the way they do? Everything is incredibly thoughtful.
Yep.
And as you're getting to know us, if you're someone that wants to connect with us, you haven't yet, ask questions, and because we have answers for why we do things the way that we do them. And so what we're gonna take you through is all of the different components of our program in the order that they are in our program. And we have them in a very specific order. And the reason for that is we've designed our program with a particular flow that it has, because this is what we have discovered is the most efficient and effective way to induce your body's innate capacity to heal, right? Like Jess was saying, your body knows how to heal. Your body wants to heal. And so the order that we have things in is like, what's the most efficient and the most effective way to move you through that. It is a slow healing process, and we are trying to steward you along as efficiently as possible in this unfolding process. So the very first thing that the first connection point that you would have with us is what we call a discovery call, which is with Jessica and Michaela. And it's an opportunity for folks to really meet Jess and Mick, and for Jess and Mick to really get to know you and what's happening for you in your specific situation. And these videos also help In early phase, you'll be emailing probably with me, and I might point you to certain videos and sort of helping people really get a sense of what are we doing here, and then connecting one-on-one with Jess and Michaela. Everyone has that opportunity. And then when people decide, all right, I'm signing up, and we start figuring that out, I work with people really closely on this onboarding process because as you'll see, we have a lot of different pieces going on. It can feel, a little confusing, and I'm here to hold your hand and really take you through this whole process. And as if you've listened to some of our other recordings, I am a patient here as well, and I've been a patient of Jessica's for years. And so I wear many hats. And so I can say, not just here's the logistics of what you need for SSP, but here's my experience when I did SSP and some things you might want to think about, and let's connect about that, right? And all the different pieces. So I'm both the, a sort of logistic administrative help, getting you know what you need to do and when, but also like a peer holding your hand and helping you understand what's happening and when things are going to happen and what all of that at the beginning and the whole time. I mean, people contact, whenever, and I'm really like your buddy to help you to get started here. And I love it because I get to know folks, and then because I might not see you for a little bit until restoring and things like that. So that's an initial phase, is sort of getting oriented, getting onboarded with me. And then the first real sort of component of the program that's like, all right, here we go, you're starting to do the program, is the safe and sound protocol. And I'm going to let Allie kind of kick us off with that. Is one of our lead providers of what we call SSP. So that's what we'll call the safe and sound protocol, because it's a lot to say all the time. So Allie will talk us through what is SSP and why do we do it? And why do we do it first?
Yeah. So SSP it was developed or created by Dr. Stephen Porges, who we've mentioned a few times. It is a passive ANS exercise that uses specific sound frequencies to help regulate the autonomic nervous system and stimulate the ventral vagus nerve. And in our program, members meet one-on-one for appointments and for appointments to deliver the 5 hours of music. And that is listened to with over-the-ear headphones that everyone will get. And really, this experience is to build safety in the system. It's like kind of the first messaging of safety to the system, and really builds a foundation for which the restoring education can be enhanced. And that's essentially like the neuroplasticity that is built in SSP will carry you into the restoring program and allow those pieces of education to be more effective. And we really individualize this part of the treatment as well by, as you guys can see, I hate this stuff. One-on-one, I promise I'm different.
You're doing great.
It's individualized in that we help the person build trust with their ANS by collaboratively, meaning me and the member, paying close attention to the messages that are being sent through the autonomic nervous system. And I'm not step in and help me out here. That would help.
Okay, I will, mainly because your camera was cutting out a little bit on my end anyway. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Great job, though. Great job.
That was good.
Okay. Yes. So I mean, you really covered it, Allie. Just a couple of little points. Again, we're creating neuroplastic change within the autonomic nervous system. We're talking about going from dysregulated system to regulated. Part of that necessitates that we find and strengthen those ventral vagal pathways that Jess was mentioning before, where all of that healthy physiologic function happens. For some of our members, there's very little activity on that ventral vagal fiber. And so the initial experience of this music, which sounds so benign, and it's healthy and beautiful and wonderful. Why would it be something that we would have to do in a titrated, very cautious way? For the people, and this is most of our people, who have very little activity on that ventral vagal pathway, it's actually encouraging a felt embodied sense of safety and connection, which is what we want. But the experience of feeling safe and connected to a system that is rigidly in protection, believing it's promoting survival by hypervigilance, relaxing into feeling safe and connected, can bring on a state of threat and protection. So what does that look like? It looks like all sorts of different things. It can create, again, these are fleeting things that we just are working together with the provider and the member to track together things. I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I have some flushing. There's a little knot in my stomach. I feel a little agitated. Any little something that is new that comes, we notice that we pay attention. Occasionally, because we are, as members, we are conditioned sometimes to be ignoring our symptoms and maybe overriding them, or I'll keep going for a little bit. Maybe the provider sees a furrowed brow or like someone spacing out. We might go like, hey, I just want to check in. How are you doing? And oftentimes it's like, oh, right, I almost wouldn't have noticed that. But yes, I am feeling a little uneasy. And so part of that is like, there's lots of healing value in that whole process, which is, the music itself, but also training ourselves once again to do what was intended about our bodies, to really be attuned to and noticing different cues so that we can respond, which is actually another way that we're creating safety in the system. Like basically the autonomic nervous system, the reason it's giving you discomfort in the body at all is to try and get your attention. And we're kind of like, that's annoying. I'd like to do other things. But what healing necessitates is that we actually go toward that, really start to learn how to track and notice and feel safe doing that with someone else again. So all of that is building safety into the system. And we have to do that in a really slow, titrated way with our members.
And importantly, this is another sort of, I think, move towards safety that we make, is that we don't have a set sort of limit. Like you get this many sessions to do it.
No.
We meet you exactly where your autonomic nervous system is at, and we go as slow as you need to go. And that's an assessment that we try to make before in terms of, what kind of membership are you going to do if we think it's going to take, a longer approach or not. But you get the 5 hours delivered in however many appointments that takes to deliver for you. And I think that is another cue of safety. It's like, we're just here. We're going to do this together. There's no like, the clock is ticking, right? So I think that's another very unique aspect of how we deliver the Safe and Sound protocol.
Absolutely. May I touch on a couple other points?
Mm-hmm.
Safe and sound. Okay. So as Ali mentioned, it's creating neuroplastic change in the body. Neuroplastic change, if anyone is familiar with that in general, it's part of it is pruning things. It's neuroplasticity is happening all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. Any pattern that is repeated is reinforcing neuroplastic change, and anything that we stop doing eventually prunes whatever that pathway is. So this is a process of, again, creating neuroplastic change passively without us actively having to do something over and over again. And it's using the middle ear, which is innervated by the vagus. This is what's brilliant about this program that Stephen Porges designed, because this is using this middle ear as a path of getting access to the ventral vagal fibers. And as Jess has said, when you turn on some of that physiologic function, it is giving you a taste of what it feels like to, right? So in a lot of different ways, it makes everything that we do in the program later more accessible. You have a taste of this ventral, it's been awakened. It is allowing for a bit of healing and repair to happen, a little bit of that healthy physiologic function in all of the different organ systems to happen. And the other thing that it does is create a little more safety so that we can actually access this executive functioning part of our brain, our ventral vagal aspect of our brain, to then move on and continue the process of creating neuroplastic change in our behaviors and in the things that we're doing day to day. And I'll pass it off to you, Jess, because this is your great analogy about bushwhacking, like why that is so challenging when you don't feel well already and you don't have a lot of energy, like why SSP is so helpful here.
Yeah, so my image for like building new neural pathways has always been of bushwhacking through the Amazon rainforest. And it's like you are here, you want to go here, but it's a totally dense vines and everything, and you've got your feet and a machete, and you've got to get through. And so that is kind of the image of like trying to do this actively when you haven't used that pathway much, and you need to get on the ventral vagal fibers to get your body to heal because you desperately want to get well. To do that actively is just so energy intensive, like a machete and your shoes, it's hardcore. And so what we just love and why we use Safe and Sound protocol with everybody is because this is passive. You can sit there, we have you enhance the experience with some kind of enjoyable experience. For some people that's knitting or sewing or coloring or painting. Some people's just snuggling with warm fuzzy things and drinking their favorite tea. But whatever, we have you do something that you enjoy doing that is stationary, and listen to this music that has these particular frequencies that go in and only land on the ventral vagal fibers. It's like the music is doing the bushwhacking for you, and you get to be just sitting comfortably in your little nook and enjoying an activity and be with a provider on Zoom. And go again at the pace that your nervous system feels safe with. And over the course of this 5-hour treatment, you're just really going back and forth. In my analogy, it's like, as you use that path, it becomes first a little, like a cow path that you can actually see through the forest or the Amazon rainforest. And then it becomes like one of those little 2-track, dirt roads that still has stuff in the middle, but you can actually see that it's accessible by vehicle. And eventually it's a paved superhighway. And that's really what we're doing. That's not to say that then all the work is super easy once you've done SSP, but it's really possible. Mm-hmm. And as Michaela was saying, also your physiology has experienced a little bit of that. That is not to say, she used the word you can feel. And I want to say that doesn't mean you can feel. The brain, the nervous system knows that experience. Often there are some changes that people are experiencing in the latter half of Safe and Sound protocol. But really, we have experience with people who have done Safe and Sound and gone into the rest of our program, and people who haven't done Safe and Sound. And the difference is really profound. So we just know, again, that the most efficient and effective way to get you to the healing that you come here for is really to start with the Safe and Sound protocol, even though it feels like it's a really slow process at times. It's a brilliant process that really makes the rest of the work fall into place in a much faster way than it would without it.
Just as a point of clarification, the listening itself is 5 hours of the music. It's a very specific, very precise. It takes your nervous system on a very specific journey. The treatment ultimately might be closer to 20 hours in terms of all of the different sessions, just to clarify, because it is confusing to hold, I think, for people who are brand new to the concept. The actual number of minutes of the musical listening is 5 hours, but the treatment is much, much longer.
So you might have a 1-hour appointment and listen to 10 or 15 minutes of the music, and the rest of the appointment is everything that Ali and Mick described in terms of the experience of of noticing what's happening in your system.
And it might be way longer than that. Like,
Yeah.
we've had people go anywhere from,
Right.
12 sessions to 45 or something, that's
I would
And
say
we
almost-
help discern where we think you might be in that scale earlier on.
Yeah.
We are very creative and very willing to come up with all sorts of different ways of delivering things. So really, I would almost say that the most variables we have, it might even be SSP in terms of like how slowly we really have to go. The gamut.
Yeah, that's true.
The gamut has been true.
And it's worth it. It is always worth the time and effort that we take with your individualized delivery of SSP, because it is building safety into your nervous system so that you can access the rest of the program and therefore the healing. And so, yeah, I guess I just want to say, like, you're not doing it wrong. Nobody is doing it wrong. Like, I mean,
Yes.
if you're at OCC, it's
Yeah.
not wrong. You're not bad. You're not slow. You're not fast. You're
or
not
even too fast. Right. I was going to say,
Right.
because
Yeah.
too, and really, like, there are reasons why we've seen the gamut. It is always working. It is working no matter what. We have seen it. And even too fast, what that generally means is in many cases, there has been access to the ventral vagal fibers more recently. It isn't as startling to your autonomic nervous system. It's a little more familiar. It's like, oh, okay. And so people who,
it's not an unhacked path through the Amazon rainforest. In other words, the speed at which your nervous system like adapts to doing the safe and sound protocol just depends on what version of pathway there is on those fibers. You know?
And whatever is going on for you on any given day, right? You didn't get a lot of sleep last night and there's a stressful thing happening in your life. Like everything else, it weighs into how much you have for resources and how your autonomic nervous system experiences safety in that moment.
Yeah. And we've spent, a good amount of time really describing safe and sound protocol in more detail because it's a very unique aspect. A lot of people have never heard of it before. And even if you have heard of it before, as everyone's been describing, we do it very differently, very titrated, very individualized. And so it's a very unique upon unique. So we hope
I'll go on record as saying that one of the things about safe and sound protocol, and we've actually treated some people who have had not like very unfortunate experiences with either providers who either didn't offer the connection piece or did not administer it with the caution that it really deserves and demands. Having skillful titration is critical, and that prior to our working to develop a program that worked for our population, there was a kind of a cautionary message that there are certain populations with trauma histories that this does not work well for. And what we have learned is that no, that is the population it works best for if administered with this very, very aware, attuned, slow, spacious, however long it takes process. It can be done safely. And in fact, those are the people who have the most benefit. So it really is a beautiful thing to have been a part of developing it that way, and even being able to educate larger audiences about how to do that for populations who don't have an easy, simple time with the 5 hours of listening.
Which we have had the opportunity to do, which is really exciting. So I'm going to shift us to the next aspect, the next step in our program. So, and again, this is individualized. So it could be, you could have started SSP, be in the middle of SSP, have finished SSP, depending on how things time out. And then there's our restoring class, which is very exciting. And it's one of our big, foundational aspects of our program. And restoring is with Michaela and me. And we are going to describe it now somewhat, but we are also working on a separate video that we'll post just about restoring, because we're actually sort of changing it a little bit in very exciting ways. So Michaela, why don't you start taking, well, I'll do a little bit first and then,
Okay.
So restoring, for people who may have heard of it, up to this point has been a 6-month program. And we are now shifting that and we are turning it into, it'll still be 6 months of content, if you will. So it's still sort of the same educational curriculum. But what we've learned is that well, I'll describe what we're going to shift it to and then explain why. So we're going to have 3 months of weekly class where we come together as a group and there's learning. We provide new education, have an opportunity to, work with your peers, connect about it. There's practice. We call them home plays instead of homework that you do at home, neural exercises, things like that. So we have 3 months of that. And then the members, the peers, continue to meet together for a little bit. Our meetings as a class are an hour and a half, meet together for a shorter amount of time, but still each week with the idea of practicing what was covered in the class in those 3 months, connecting together, really working things through together. We're going to have some layers of mentorship and peer support that we will talk about more in our upcoming video because we're still fleshing out those details. But really to kind of deepen the practice of what was learned to that point. And then we'll meet together with Michaela and me in our weekly class, hour and a half, we get together and then we go, we do the next phase where it's like really deepening this autonomic nervous system regulation work. Together, we're bringing content, new neural exercises, and then we sort of repeat the same cycle where then the group still meets every week to do that practice together and to keep that connection and really, getting into the nitty-gritty, the weeds together of this shift. And the reason we've shifted the time scale is that neuroplastic change and shifting, doing this weed whacking through the Amazon rainforest, this takes time, right? We're building new neural pathways. We're pruning, we're sort of neglecting the old one, the one that used to be the superhighway, but we're like, no, we're bushwhacking over here, right? So it takes time. And so this new approach is going to really honor the time and space that the autonomic nervous system needs to make that lasting change, to really shift. And by continuing with the connection with peers, because connection is part of our treatment, right? Connection is part of our program. It's where, we're accessing and practicing or stimulating those ventral vagal fibers when we're in connection with our peers. So we're really excited about this new model and how it's going to meet our members that much more where you really are, and bring the learning at this pace and scale that you can really sort of soak it in and practice it in real time together. So Michaela, please enhance and add to what I have said.
Okay. I think, as you said, well, if we're doing another video that we can really get into the depths, especially since we have other things we're wanting to cover today. But I will say that, what is the restoring class? What is it about? What are we learning? It really is about, it's learning polyvagal theory. It's learning evolutionary biology. It's effectively providing you with a roadmap for understanding what the kinds of experiences you've been having your entire life, the places you get stuck. It really is a paradigm shifting, changes your orientation to yourself and everyone in the world kind of an education that's like, oh, that's why this is happening. That's why this. And so when I say roadmap, it's like, we can't know where we're going or how to get there until we really, really understand how and why it's happening. And to really, again, this is where it becomes individualized. I can give you the biology, I can give you these explanations and the polyvagal learning, and then we spend a lot of time with specific ways of noticing how these things are appearing in our lives, in our bodies, in our relationships, in our patterns, in our lives. And so then we can, once we really, really know where are we, it's, coming back to that roadmap, like an orientation to where we are, we can begin to think about changes. So it's kind of like the first 2 months are a lot of that learning and orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And we just start to get into the way it'll be structured now. We'll just start to get into applying, like trying to create some of those neuroplastic changes in an active way. So as opposed to the passive neural exercises from the SSP, we'll be teaching you active neural exercises in this class. And then, as you said, as Christine said, you'll have an opportunity to really integrate what you've learned, to keep practicing. When it's challenging, you have peers that you can work with to figure out how to work with it and to celebrate triumphs as well. And we learn from each other. It's a really excellent way of, again, having this 3 months where the peers are mainly interacting with themselves. When you teach something or try to explain something or understand something, hearing it from someone else, having someone else offering feedback, working together on it really helps to reinforce the learning for ourselves. And then again, we'll pick up with some more of that learning, really creating some more, integrating those practices and learning some new things to develop the new pathways in our bodies. And then the end of it is focused a lot on skillful, aware connection to ourselves and to other people. That really helps to deeply reinforce being safe in relationship to ourselves and other people. As we've said, that is the foundation of creating a healthy life for ourselves, including physiologic health. So, and then there will be more opportunity for connection and integration there. So that is what the class primarily is. And it's a really robust education. The connection piece, we keep saying that feeling safe in relationship to others is the work, and that we work really hard to create a container of safety for people to develop that with one another in their peer group. And also, you will find that you feel like there's a new language that you have for yourself for understanding your experience, and you'd like to be able to talk about it with other people. And for a while, you will not have likely a spouse or a partner or friends or whatever to talk about it with. But so it becomes extremely helpful to have peers that you can relate to your experience in this way to really make it come alive for you in your life and in your body. How do I do?
Thank you,
I'd like to say, as somebody who has taken this class at the inception, but more recently as well, I just participated in a class. And, it's such a life-changing experience to go through it, even for somebody like me who has so much knowledge about it. Knowledge, that's different. Really learning to apply the wisdom of the polyvagal theory to my own body and my own interactions. Michaela keeps saying with ourselves and others. Mick, I would love it if you would give just a little tiny bit of insight into the importance of the relationship with ourselves, because I think that that's something that is not well understood, certainly not talked about a lot. And really the way that our biology depends on us, treating ourselves the way we need to be treated is pretty profound.
Yeah. Well, now I'm choked up a little bit. It's very moving that you had that experience in the class, and being able to witness it as your friend and colleague has really been deeply moving to me. And you were my most challenging member.
As you were mine before OCC, Mick, so you're even now.
No, but genuinely challenging in a way that has enriched the offering.
Yeah.
Actually, like questions and ways that we could work to improve and enhance and nurture the class for people. So thank you. But I think I'm grateful you actually said that, because I think polyvagal theory does really focus on the connection that you have with other people. And yes, that's important. And we did, as we've been saying, that initial connection of being in a dyad with the caregiver and the infant is this is the biology that we're working with, and it is critically important. For all of us in our Western culture, there has been some challenge in those early developmental pathways where we don't always feel like our needs will be met and that we will be responded to. And part of what has happened, and just as a culture, it's very easy to see that we're almost rewarded for overriding our own body's signals, working longer than we're really should, working later than we really should in the winter when it's like we're not moving with the seasons anymore, ignoring the pain that we're feeling, overriding whatever signals we're having, forcing ourselves to show up to a live thing when our anxiety is saying don't do it. But but genuinely, there's a way that from what you will learn in the class is that from very, very early on, we've actually been conditioned to abandon ourselves in some way to stay in connection with the adult caregiver, even the really well-meaning adult caregiver. And that we end up learning that, and that pattern gets reinforced throughout our lives. And most of us are not particularly tuned into our bodies, even if our bodies are constantly giving us signals of pain or things that we're responding to on that level. It's a different kind of attunement that you learn in the class. That attunement is survival, and that our healing really necessitates that before we can even really be a safe person to be in relationship with, that we need to be helping to let the autonomic nervous system know that we are listening, that it doesn't need to escalate its signals anymore to get our attention. That part of why we are in the place that we're in with the illness or the symptoms or the pain or the anxiety and depression or discomfort that we're in is our system saying, please pay attention on a different level. We'll help you understand what it's really wanting. But that it is this development of really being attuned to ourselves in a very different way that actually creates safety for us to navigate any of the complexities that we have in our lives, especially with other people. And if I may, like in general, how it was supposed to be is that with really adequate co-regulation as an infant, we learn how to self-regulate. Most of us did not get enough, so we did not learn how to self-regulate well enough. We've come up with a whole assortment of adaptive ways, including auto-regulation, which is almost like I'm going to numb my way through this. I'll work until I'm ready to drop. I'll doom scroll on Facebook, for hours on end. I'll drink or eat or shop or whatever the thing is that's taking us out of our body, away from our body's signals and experiences. That's auto-regulation. But what we actually really need to do now that we're adults is to go back and really learn how to self-regulate. Part of that does involve co-regulation with other people, but learning how to self-regulate. So it's kind of this process of learning how to not manage our safety outside of ourselves by controlling circumstances and people, and trying pretty, like even in ancient wisdom traditions, it's like trying to focus on creating safety here instead of trying to make safety happen out there. And so it's kind of that now we need to get away from codependency and into independence and then interdependence. It's supposed to be interdependence, but we kind of have to move through away from codependence and seeing those patterns truly for what they are, that we can then get into safe independence and then very safely into interdependence. I wasn't planning on answering that question today. I hope that helps to clarify for people who are hearing it and it doesn't just feel, but this is part of what we end up learning in class. It's life-saving and life-changing.
Yeah. And I help facilitate it, but I've also been participating and learning myself in the different iterations of restoring. And it is such a shift and such a powerful move to, instead of that part of us, that little young part of us that is still wanting or grasping or, I'm the crying baby. Is someone going to be there for me? To learn how to really be there for yourself and to show up and be, the loving mama to me, to little me that still has some wounds from the past, but also adult me now and what I'm experiencing now. And it is, like Jess said, it's such a life-changing and life-giving experience that my health has benefited, but just how I feel and how I feel in my body and my skin and in my relationships. It's just such a huge shift. It's hard to articulate, but it's a really powerful thing. And so we're honoring like the time and the space to bring that to people and to get everyone started, because it is something, this neuroplastic change and this learning that you'll take beyond restoring, and that you'll take beyond your time here with OCC.
And if I
And I
may,
think, yeah,
I think it's helpful to say, especially since I took us through like codependence, independence, interdependence as a framing, but
yeah,
how there is this tension between, we do need other people, and in fact the deeper layers of healing that you are describing, Christine, requires that we feel safe and held by
yes,
other people. And yet part of what we need to develop, and that we will support you in developing, is feeling safe enough to even ask for it.
right.
Right? It's like could be, and we do this for each other. So I'm speaking about how the ways that we show up for each other in this beautiful way, and how that is such a huge part of this deepening of our own healing, and the ability to move through some of our all the old messaging, old patterns from other times, and to learn something new. It's necessary to have each other, just to use us as an example, but to have people who we really feel safe to ask for that kind of support from. But again, there's a process that needs to happen to even be able to do that safely. So I want to name that, because I think there's a way that's like, I don't have people, or I don't feel that safe.
Right.
Or the last thing when I'm feeling needy, it used to be my way was, you won't hear from me for like 3 months. Like, I'm going away over here into this corner to like attend to myself, because when I'm actually needing someone the most, I feel the most vulnerable, that if I were to reach for it, it won't be there. And it feels like I might die. So just to give that is the process that partly the class is walking us through. And of course the SSP is giving us a foundation to navigate that in the dark, basically.
And I want to name too that in the class there, Michaela and I are in the class. There's the peers, so we're doing this together. And in the individual appointments with Michaela is what we call our mind body appointments, is this opportunity to take the restoring learning and then really with Michaela look at, okay, particularly for me and my situation and what's coming up for me and on all of that, so that with that connection with Michaela and Michaela's expertise to really sort of home in even more, and perhaps specify the practices, add to some practices, or just enhance it, deepen it, make it that much more accessible for you. And it's really building off of restoring in that way. So even though it's a separate, line item or like aspect of our program, it really dovetails so beautifully with restoring and the learning in restoring, that I wanted to kind of mention it briefly now. And then so if Mick wants to say a little bit more about that first, and then to have Jess say, wait, how is all of this functional medicine? And just kind of, turn us back again that yes, all of this autonomic nervous system regulation, everything Michaela just described in restoring, this is all functional medicine. But first, is there just a couple more things for the mind-body appointments that feels important to clarify?
I mean, this is very, very unique to every individual and where they happen to be at any given time. These can be spaced out. They can all happen toward the end if you feel like you're staying with the class and that you're able to integrate things, in real time, and you don't feel like you need the support. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Truly, the gamut could happen in a mind-body visit. It could be like, help me to understand this concept that I don't really understand, or how does this apply specifically in my life situation that I'm experiencing right now, or like, I'm completely stuck, I don't even know. We might do body scan. I have a lot of tools. If you've read my bio, like, I am trained in a lot of different modalities to try and get access to that which is unconscious in a safe way. But it could also just be support around this is the dynamic that I'm having with my partner right now. And how do I navigate this situation? Or, this is what's happening in my health. Really, anything is possible. So like specific questions, as you invited before, if somebody's curious, what are some of the things that we might do in a mind body? We'd be happy to get into more details with that. Yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
I think, Mick, one way that I would phrase it is that you kind of help people where their blinders are.
Right.
And me having done this restoring work, again, the places where we encounter, it could feel like a hurdle, it could feel like a roadblock, it could feel like that's impossible for me, I can't do that. Often there is something that the nervous system is protecting us from knowing, for very good reasons. There's biological reasons why. And so Mick just mentioned, like, it could feel like you're dying, but you kind of were real quiet right then, Mick. So I wanted to repeat it. But when she used to go away for 3 months because she felt needy, it felt like if she reached for the help and it wasn't there, she would die. And so it was too vulnerable to ask. And that's a very common scenario, I think, really probably for even males and females in our culture. I know definitely for females it is. But there are other ways. So in other words, like that type of situation, Michaela can really artfully help anyone very safely and very carefully get in and see why it feels like. So she says, it feels like you're going to die because the nervous system says you're going to die if you don't get this care in infancy. And you could die if you don't get the care in infancy. That's for real. But when I say I can't do that exercise, Michaela can then help carefully navigate through to figure out what is the place that feels like I'm going to die if I were to go there. Why is my nervous system not letting me see or know something? And I just am like, I can't do it. That's not accessible to me. So that's the type of thing. Like everyone has stuff that is, nobody doesn't need mind body sessions. In other words, they're like a treasure gift, a phenomenal opportunity to dig into your own little crevices, whatever they may be.
Thank you. I will say that one of the things that I think I'd like to say, this is not a psychological phenomenon at all. This is a physiologic phenomenon. We're talking about the dorsal vagal circuitry, which is it's conservation, it's freeze, it's numbing, it's dissociative, it's keeping something unconscious. It is protecting us from too much. What the too much is could be any number of things, including way too much energy, given the energy that the body has. But it could be it's too much something that the system has deemed it's not going to be safe to feel all of this or to know all of this or to have this come up and out. And the body's actually right, by the way. So I just want to say, like, the body's right about that. If all of the stored trauma that any of us have in our bodies came up at once, it would be too much. It would in fact be too much. So our job is like inviting the conversation, inviting a little, can I feel it just for 10 seconds and then like come back. It's developing a process for being able to eventually feel safe enough and for the individual to feel a sense of agency and empowerment for being a partner in that process, that you can control that and you can know when it feels like too much and know how to come back. In other words, a lot of us are kind of just feel like when you don't know what the biology is doing or why, we're pretty helpless to it. Like it's kind of just doing things that we're like along for the ride. Part of our process is helping to explain it, give you some context for relating to it in a safe feeling way, and then practicing new experiences that, again, Jess is saying, may feel like life threat because they were at a different point in our history. And so that is still in our bodies. And until we have an opportunity to try things in a small enough way to feel safe to the system, then the body maintains the conclusion that whatever it was in the past, threatening, if saying no to a parent meant that you were going to be rejected or ostracized or yelled at, the experience in the body is life threat. So.
Exactly.
And so it may be hard to say no to a boss or something.
When you attempt to do that in the present day, the feeling, you may intellectually, you're like, what is my problem? Like, this is not that big of a deal. I just, you may even really feel that way. I want to set a boundary. I want to say no. I want to, whatever the thing is, right? But when you would go to do it, it's like sometimes it gets like frozen or stuck in your throat, or just absolutely not. Or maybe all of a sudden extreme fatigue overwhelms you, or you're like dizzy and out of sorts all of a sudden. These are all indicators that your system is saying, this was definitely a huge threat. It was a huge problem in the past. The way to stay safe is to stay silent or small or invisible or please and appease. Use your social engagement system to like help this person by like being smiley and meet all of their needs, while inside you're feeling like very threatened, right? There's lots of different, we are a far afield from where we were planning on going with it.
Yes, but let me say why it's critical. Again, I'm aware that it sounds like we're talking about psychology. It sounds like we're talking about trauma treatment. In fact, what we're talking about is the autonomic nervous system. And these are the relational breaches in safety in infancy and early childhood that set up the patterns of our biology that exist today. So in other words, if I get asked to do something and my no gets caught in my throat because of an experience that I don't remember, and we're not talking about processing your traumas one by one here. That's not what happens. The point is we can actually use our prefrontal cortex, our 20% of nervous system fibers that we do have control over, once you learn this, once you have the safety. And that's why the whole process exists with us, that then you can use those fibers to discern, oh, this no caught in my throat was adaptive at some point. We know it was. Great. I'm glad for that. Also, my physiology is offline when my no is stuck in my throat.
Right.
And so learning to be able to say the no today, that I am safe enough to say no. As a matter of fact, I'm safer if I say no, because now I'm not overextending myself. I'm not, taxing myself beyond what I should be. Probably if you want to say no, you should say no. And also that level of safety allows your organ systems to turn on and run effectively and allow resolution of inflammation and all of the healthy biology that you're seeking. And so that's why restoring class is functional medicine. It doesn't always feel like it minute to minute, but I am here behind the scenes to say that people who come to us with some version of chronic illness, chronic distress, have had their autonomic nervous systems functioning largely in a state of protection to save their lives. Like, we're grateful for all that their nervous systems have done. And also, it is now getting, it's far maladaptive, and the body is suffering for a lack of opportunity to be in this health, growth, and restoration pattern consistent with ventral vagal activity. So we know that each person seeking our care is in a survival pattern. Some people are more dominant in dorsal, some people are more dominant in sympathetic, but everybody's going between the two. And in order to bring back online the very root cause of disease, allow the organs to function, allow the immune system to work the way it's supposed to work, allow the healing to happen, you've got to access neuroregulation of the organs, which means you've got to access the ventral vagal fibers. And so the restoring class is part of our functional medicine practice because it is how you access health.
Well said. If I may, the one thing I just wanted to add is that going back to the saying no as a beautiful example, the path to safety isn't saying no. Creating a path of safety is the path to being able to say no, which is reinforcing safety. In other words, it's not about changing the behaviors. It's about changing what's preventing you from organically feeling safe enough to execute the behavior. That's the treatment. That's the treatment.
And just to say, once, for those like being in this work for a while, I'm now having the experience of having something and say, oh, yeah, no, blah, 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 and later going, wow, that was easy. There was no issue. Before it would be, oh my God, you're whatever, for this no example, or, oh, I didn't have a huge rush of heat and panic through my body and my heart racing, my stomach clenching because I got this weird text. It was like, oh, that's weird. So biologically, my body, because I'm experiencing safety and I can interpret something through this lens of safety, I'm not having the survival physiology and the corticotropin releasing factor and the mast cells degranulating and my cortisol level, adrenaline, like all that just didn't happen because I was like, And so that's the kind of shift that we're talking about, where it's like when the rewiring happens, it's like literally these experiences just like feel different in the body, and biologically then I'm set up for, I was still in healing and repair. Oh, okay. Da, 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 da. Right. And it's not because I was sort of forcing a new behavior on top of what I was actually feeling in my body.
Right.
Because I was feeling different in my body, my behavior was like, oh, or no. So that's just to say, like, that's sort of the like downstream. That's where we're helping people to get, so that they're having neuroregulation. You're having neuroregulation of your organs, and your body's able to just keep doing the healing and repairing. And this is all the functional medicine piece of helping you feel better, helping your body heal.
Well, and I mentioned that it's at the very end of class that we really get into the relationship piece, like the relationship with ourselves, and then deeper skillfulness around being in relationship with other people. But I think it's wise to even say, a lot of times what happens is we identify patterns, ways that we're behaving that we don't really love. We want to be able to say no. We want to be able to set boundaries, but we do it before the safety is in place. We're usually making a mess. Maybe we overcorrect and we come in and we're really kind of curt and rude or angry or, critical, or, you know what I mean? We aren't able to do it well yet, because we don't even know we're still holding all of this in our bodies. That is about a time that isn't necessarily, it probably is only a little bit about you and this other person, and a lot about what you're holding in your body from a point in your development for that you you said, Jessica, you don't even remember. You wouldn't possibly, it's pre-verbal anyway. But regardless, so just to say, there's a very specific, skillful way of navigating these types of things. And a lot of it we cover in class, and a lot of it we work on one-on-one together. And I do want to just mention, just so that credit is due, Allie's been part of all of our classes. We thank you, Allie. We're actually transitioning Allie away from some of that part to focus on some other things. And Allie is actually in training as a mind-body provider as well. So we're really excited about that.
It's very excellent. I just want to name, we've been on this for a while, and if people are watching later, that's why it's sectioned off. We're assuming you're pausing and taking things in at a time. Some of us we're starting to go off camera because I needed to drink some water because we're good. I think we're going to keep going so that we can get through everything. But if you've been noticing some of us going off camera, that's what's going on.
I'll take that as my signal to go off camera when I'm drinking.
Yeah. So we can keep going. So the next piece that's a really huge component of our program is the functional medicine coaching that Allie brings so beautifully and so skillfully. In addition to doing SSP delivery with people, and in addition to training as a mind-body practitioner, having one-on-one mind-body appointments, Alexandria has this really core role of coaching both individually and group, and really making everything kind of come alive in a real, like, day by day way for people. So Allie's going to talk us through sort of her piece and how she does this. And I might disappear off camera to drink a little bit more again. So nothing personal. But why don't you take it away, Allie?
All right. Yeah, so coaching is also extremely individualized. It's almost a little bit difficult to talk about in a vague way because I really do like to meet everybody exactly where they're at in that moment on that day. But in general, coaching really is an opportunity to integrate and practice and to reinforce or like clarify things that have been learned in the restoring program or things that you're trying to work through from a functional medicine standpoint. So giving you the opportunity to address obstacles, your unique obstacles or places of resistance. And really, I'm just trying to work with people to empower them, again, like we said in the beginning, to develop their own empowered feeling of being able to heal. And so discussing things like your unique sources of motivation, your unique values, your unique ability to be creative, your unique strengths and resources, and really helping you harness those for yourself and yeah, to help you build long-lasting habits that aren't overwhelming, ways to help you integrate this work into your day-to-day life. And yeah.
I love it. Well, you had recommended that book, Allie, to me on becoming a person, and I think that was part of, the deeper message there is, it's not that we don't give recommendations or provide possibilities, but I think one of the things that you do extremely well and have even taught me more about enhancing the process of really encouraging someone along their own path of discovery, because everything means more if you have been the one to figure it out rather than like just check these items off of this list.
Right. So oftentimes, like, rather than statements, it's questions. So it's questions to get you to self-reflect. So even if it is like an idea that I'm having about something that you're experiencing, but asking you questions to kind of develop your own awareness of that or to potentially see it from my perspective, but in your own experience of doing that rather than sharing my perspective and trying to get you to get on board with what I think or something like that. So that is exactly that, and developing that self-awareness.
And please
through
correct me if I'm
interviewing
wrong, but what I see too, from you're helping to support folks in kind of really taking, like, okay, we're learning this and restoring, or there's these practices, or if someone's in a membership where they have appointments with Jess, recommended this, or I'm trying this diet, and it's like, okay, what do I do? And I feel like with your questions and your guidance, you help people kind of like, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and then here's how I actually kind of go about my day and really integrate these different components. Does that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's sort of what I see.
Absolutely.
Sort of coming through.
Yeah.
You're definitely an anchor that is
holding
like all of Jessica's deep functional medicine education. You've been a part of all of that, and you've been a part of many, many restoring classes. You really are equipped and ready to answer questions about whatever is coming up for someone on all of our different components of care.
Yeah. And to practice home plays, if there's resistance around home plays and actually having somebody to do them with. Really, it's just about meeting the person with whatever it is that they're struggling with or wanting to overcome, and helping them actualize in that vision of themselves that they may have. So, yeah, and I think members would agree that I'm more skillful in my delivery and communication in a one-on-one setting.
Well, you're doing really well, actually. I just want to say that, but it is that our members love you and really respond to you, and
love them all.
Extremely helpful. Yeah,
many resources.
And we are gonna be moving towards more group coaching. As well. I don't know if you want to speak about that. That's a little bit in development, but
all the more reinforces like what I had said about kind of the self-empowering and getting a little bit away from, you have a lot of in OCC class work that's led by Michaela or Jessica. It's a lot of teaching, right? And now it's kind of giving you the opportunity with guidance with somebody who does know this stuff, but giving members the experience of working together. And maybe I chime in and clarify something or say something a little bit differently, but it's ultimately an opportunity for members to build that relationship, that connection piece, that safety, and to practice together and to teach each other, and giving members the opportunity to, like, maybe I set up a kind of an outline for what we would be discussing that day, but then kind of handing it off to the members to discuss, to get their hands on it, basically giving them the experience of teaching one another, and then me being able to come in and clarify or something like that.
I mean, I'm going to say it again, and we've said it many, many times in many different ways, but like being able to do any of these behavior changes, being in connection with someone else, having someone that is supporting you, having an agreement, an accountability buddy, or whatever, all of these things are extraordinarily valuable. And the thing is that even we as the providers we do that for one another. You're my health coach, Jess is my provider. We are collectively holding each other, but getting to experience how significant the connection piece is. In addition to as providers, we get to witness how strong that is. And even part of where we're going in, the new phase of OCC's development is it's a long week between Thursday to Thursday class, right? And that we do actually need more touch points and connection and holding to be able to reinforce the learning that we were excited about when we left class, and to be able to build it into our day-to-day lives. It really is so helpful. So we're going to be
we know the power of like verbalizing things, right? And so that just an additional opportunity in group and individual coaching for you to vocalize your understanding of things, or to state a goal, or to state a obstacle that you're having. Like, it's giving you the opportunity.
Excellent.
And everybody is obsessed with Allie and their appointments with Allie. Just to reflect again, everyone loves Allie. We do too.
I love you guys too.
And I'll just say, logistically speaking about coaching, the different types of memberships come with different amounts of coaching. And, some people, don't find that they need to use a ton of coaching, and other people find that it's actually super supportive and really helps them be successful. And so coaching is available as, kind of 6-pack coaching at a big discount. If the number of sessions that comes with someone's membership is not sufficient, that's always something that is available to add on. So we try to be, we try to recommend, but coaching is something that some people really want every single week, and other people like, no, just this little hurdle time, we'll have 4 sessions or whatever, but it's much more sporadic. So that is something that sometimes people do add on.
And like Mick said, with my body, it's very individualized, right? So what is this? What do you need at this time, and what works for you and the pattern? So again, even if you like, memberships come with certain amounts of these kinds of appointments and whatever, it's the actual path and the journey that people take is completely tailored to you and what you need and when you need it. So we work together to feel that out in real time. And one aspect that's another piece that's done in groups that I bring as part of the autonomic nervous system regulation, functional medicine, all functional medicine, but the side is that I'm trained as a HeartMath mentor, I think is what I'm technically called. And so I'm trained in guiding people through learning HeartMath, which for people who don't know is HeartMath. There's more than 30 years of research from the HeartMath Institute have developed. It's a series of practices that facilitate heart and brain coherence and increase heart rate variability, which is all really, it's connected to, the ventral vagus we're in a ventral vagal state, coherence is a particular sort of manifestation of that, where your heart rhythm and it's like, the way I understand it is like in sync and everything, and your heart rate variability, the higher that is, the greater your heart coherence, and it's also a sign of really healthy physiologic functioning. And Jess can speak more to that more articulately, but it's a really powerful tool to enhance your autonomic nervous system regulation. But importantly, we bring it towards the end. As you notice, we're only mentioning it now. So you've had SSP, you've had restoring, you've had mind bodies with Michaela, you've been doing some coaching. And then there's a point where, okay, you have enough autonomic nervous system regulation on board to then build onto that and have HeartMath as a tool to enhance and like deepen. And one of the great things about HeartMath is that the way the practice works, it's a series of sort of gesture, breath, visualization that we guide you through. There's certain tools you can actually track your heart rate variability in real time. There's apps. It's a really cool thing. But you can, in 3 minutes, have a very powerful physiologic effect. But that kind of level of being able to work with HeartMath, again, is only available once you have access to ventral vagal pathways and there's enough electrons moving on the ventral vagus nerve to really make that work. And we do HeartMath for most of our memberships in groups as well, for all the reasons already mentioned, right? And there's small groups, usually 2 to 4 people, but we learn from each other, your experience. Oh, I have a question about this. It's feeling this way. Is that, oh yeah, I had that too. And so it's more connection, it's more learning together, reflecting together. And it's another sort of sweet moment of, you might be with people, oh, you were in a different restoring class, but now I'm meeting you here. And so it's another way to feel connected to the bigger OCC community, which is really sweet. And so that's how we bring HeartMath in a unique way, because you can get HeartMath in different places as well, but we bring it, again, tailored as part of this longer design of our program, and then we bring it in a very specific way that's really integrated into everything else we're doing. And we have 4 sessions together, and then it is possible to have some one-on-ones with me as well if someone just wants to really kind of specify, with their HeartMath practice. Michaela.
Without further ado, I think one of the things I would love to say is part of why we organized this Q&A the way we did is because of our OCC's commitment to wanting to make our care as accessible as we can to as many people as we can. We do recognize that it can be cost prohibitive to have the full functional medicine package that includes all of Jessica's care. And also we wanted to be able to expand our reach out to other folks who are in other areas of our country outside of Massachusetts, who they might be able to work with a functional medicine provider on their own. But what we know is that where people are getting stuck is this aspect of regulation of the organ systems, neuroregulation of the organ systems, which is autonomic nervous system regulation. So even for those who have the good fortune to be able to have the full functional medicine experience that includes Jessica's care here in Massachusetts, it is still the functional medicine piece of it is the autonomic nervous system foundation. So we wanted to be able to introduce for those who only have the option of the ANS work and one of those membership packages that this is it, but also we're going to layer on top some of Jessica's functional medicine care, which is available also throughout this time period that you might be having the autonomic nervous system regulation experience as the foundation of healing. So the heart of OCC and the brain, really the brain, the heart too. Jessica.
Something that you said made me want to clarify something, but now I don't remember what it was. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, available to people in Massachusetts, I guess. Like, I am licensed in Massachusetts as a nurse practitioner, so I can only practice with people who are in Massachusetts. At this time, it is possible that licensure in other states could happen, but not all states allow nurse practitioners to be licensed independently. Massachusetts does. So that's just a little caveat. And also, I really want to hit home. You know, we have other videos about kind of like, why did we build OCC, and, you know, kind of who are we? But I'll just say briefly, like, I am part of the founding members, Michaela and myself, but I am a nurse practitioner who is co-founder of OCC because this is the way to health. I am one of those people who always kind of had a special place in my brain, I guess, heart, but brain, for the folks who weren't responding the way that my Western medicine training told me that they should, or they had things that didn't even fall into anything in my Western medicine categories for diagnostics. And there just wasn't anything to really do for them. And, you know, I send them off to specialists, not on the Indian reservation, because I couldn't do that. I had to learn to be the specialist on the Indian reservation, which in other words, really, really broadened my exposure and knowledge base in medicine. And then when I moved back to Massachusetts, I got to have the experience of people going off to specialists. I got to have that feedback enter into my knowledge base. And I just kept on kind of getting frustrated about what wasn't available for people who had what I knew were real problems, but they just didn't fall into the buckets in the Western medicine paradigm. And so I now know this term that doctors use. These are called functional diseases. Why? Because people should go to a functional medicine provider? I have no idea why. I think it's because they don't have a lab test or a scan that can identify the problem, but yet the person is having a problem. And so if we zoom out and use Stephen Porges's term of neuroregulation of the organs, that is what a quote unquote functional disease or functional problem is. You do not have the innervation. You do not have the messaging on the nerve fibers that the organ should operate in its optimal way. Okay, take the gut, which everybody has experienced at one time or another, your gut going into a dysfunctional state, whether that's diarrhea or constipation or some combination of the two. I bet everyone has had a stressful experience that has resulted in one or both of those things happening. That is because the nervous system decided it was time to prioritize survival and not producing digestive juices from your stomach, your pancreas, and your liver, and not optimizing motility in a healthy way so that you'd be absorbing the nutrients and then letting your microbiome digest the fibers and whatnot, and then having a healthy bowel movement, 24 hours later or something. But rather, you would either just have no motility, so you're just totally constipated, or you're just going to flush and dump everything out immediately. So poor digestion, poor absorption, poor motility. That is the gut function in a survival state. It is not gut function. It is not neuroregulation of the gastrointestinal organs. It is resources allocated for survival.
And Jess, just because I think people in general are like, yeah, but I have SIBO and I have dysbiosis and also IBS. And can you, is it like this or that, or is it this causes that, or yeah?
It's like IBS is my pet peeve. Okay, IBS was not a diagnosis in medicine when I started practicing, and it is now. Okay, IBS is a great example of a functional disease. It is a syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome. What does that mean? What does syndrome mean? It means it's a collection of symptoms. It is not caused by one thing, unless you go all the way to the root, which medicine is not ever talking about. It is dysregulation of the nervous system, so that the organ system of the gastrointestinal tract is not working well for digestion. Okay, because resources are allocated for survival in other ways in the body. Okay, so what is true is, sure, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Why would that happen? It can happen for a bunch of reasons. It could be someone's calling that a diagnosis that you have. You may very well have SIBO. That doesn't mean you don't have something that, working on the autonomic nervous system regulation patterns that we're talking about can help you. In fact, it means you need that. And why, if you look up in the medical papers about SIBO, does it say there is no cure? It will just keep coming back. You treat it with antibiotics and it will come back. Every single time it will come back. It will come back if you don't actually get the organ systems to function properly. Because why can bacteria grow in your small intestine? Because there's no acid coming from your stomach. Because your energy is allocated for survival, not acid production. It is very, very calorie intensive. It is ATP intensive to build stomach acid.
So it can
and
do
build
one
pancreatic enzymes.
You can do one or the other. And then if you have ANS dysregulation, and if you are watching this because you have chronic health conditions, we know that you do, it's just a matter of fact, then your system is stuck in a chronic state of allocating resources for survival over and prioritizing that over these other things.
Yeah, over healthy digestion, over healthy detoxification, over healthy resolution of inflammation.
Yes.
And so you get caught in these patterns of pro-inflammatory cycles. You end up with chronic inflammation, which even Western medicine is starting to acknowledge is underlying pretty much every disease, chronic inflammation. What is chronic inflammation? It is inflammation that has not been able to be resolved. Resolving inflammation does not just happen passively with time because you didn't have another assault on your system. It is an active process of allocating resources, molecules, and energy to resolving that immune process called inflammation. And if you're not in a ventral vagal state often enough, you're not resolving your inflammation completely. And unresolved inflammation begets more inflammation. Now you're in a pattern of chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation leads to all sorts of different diseases: cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, lung disease, arthritis type diseases, autoimmune diseases, etc. Like you name it, even depression and anxiety as well.
May I just, I hope you will continue right here. I do just want to say the issue with ANS dysregulation is it's parallel to that. Any trauma, anger, grief, loss, it does not resolve passively over time. This is why the thing that happened 30 years ago is still active in your body until we do something to actively resolve it. So just naming that these are very parallel things that we're talking about. We've talked also about that in a different video, like the immune system and mast cells, and how that's two different systems that are here to protect you, that are promoting survival, and they're first responders, that in an effort to try and protect you, unintended consequences of going too far with that. So just wanting to say that is also true. A lot of people wonder, like, why is this still, why am I still having all of these things? It will wait as long as it needs to actively be resolved in the body.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, basically, like, the medical world attracted me to find functional medicine. And then functional medicine, really because of Michaela, among other people, but Michaela's personal situation where, you know, we found mold and we found chronic tick-borne infection and we found toxicity with metals as well as mold. You know, we found all sorts of things that were definitely wrong in her system. And we went ahead, I learned how to treat those things, and we approached treatment, and we couldn't get her system to resolve, even with excellent interventions. We knew they were excellent. She was doing perfect diet. She was doing perfect intermittent fasting. She was doing perfect resting, you know, and movement, everything she was supposed to be doing. She was absolutely following every instruction, and it wasn't working. And so the person that I am is the one who's always like, it's not working. What else do we do? What else is available? What else can we learn? And so that's how we eventually, I mean, I'm going to give you credit, Mick, because you found this for your own self when I said, whoa, I just clearly don't know how to help you. And you ended up going off and learning about mast cell activation and polyvagal theory, and brought it back to me skeptically. I'm a chronic skeptic, I should just say out loud. I do not get on fad bandwagons easily at all. Okay, that is not my thing. I'm very, very skeptical. So Michaela brought some stuff to me, and I'm like, yeah. Okay, people bring stuff to me all the time. As a medical provider, that is just true. That all providers are receiving lots of input from patients, which is wonderful. But you know, you don't have time to pay equal attention to every single thing that gets put on your desk. And still take good care of people. So, I didn't attend immediately. But when I finally actually read Stephen Porges's Pocket Guide to Polyvagal Theory, I think my jaw was sitting on the floor for basically the whole time, and it kept on wanting to go further and further down, and there was nowhere else to go. What I heard was the physiologic explanation for everything that had never made sense in all of my career as a nurse practitioner. Physiologic explanation. And explanation for all of our behaviors in life, like for the arguments that we have with our loved ones. I mean, explanations for so much. It's just amazing. I am bowled over by the profundity of the impact of polyvagal theory on our lives as a whole, including our health. And so obviously that's my training, that's my licensure. Like, here we are combining these multiple modalities to really deliver what we know is your body's, we're not delivering it, we're helping you generate your body's capacity to heal and allow that healing to go ahead and get moving. So
I would love
why we are.
I love this. The one thing I'd love to just add is that, because number one, the prevalence of MCAS is really high. Like, even it's approximately 17% are some of the estimates. And I like bringing it up partly because that was one of the things that, in terms of your skepticism, was like, I don't know. But
yeah, I don't even like to say it.
Might even be more than that. Right.
Go ahead.
And there's mast cell activation syndrome, and then there's like people who have chronic mast cell activation, and we're seeing a lot of both things. But how I'm really speaking to the population that's like, yeah, but I know I have mast cell activation, and it really does explain all of these things. But you're actually, just to highlight, that ANS dysregulation is actually promoting and increasing, and maybe even the cause of, or certainly preventing, stabilization of the mast cells.
Absolutely. And mast cell activation in and of itself will perpetuate or generate autonomic nervous system states of protection, because the mast cells are creating a ton of inflammation, which, when our nervous system is scanning continuously within our bodies, within the environment, and between us and others, for safety or not safety. And when there's a whole bunch of inflammation in the body, a whole bunch of alarming, as would have been true with a parasite invasion, or would have been true with, a wound from a saber-toothed tiger, or would have been true, it is true from a SARS-CoV-2 infection, right? Like, there are times when our immune system absolutely is appropriately giving warning messages of, hey, there's a serious problem, go into survival mode. And the nervous system goes into survival mode. It puts the allocation of resources in the body towards survival because of totally appropriate thing. But mast cell activation, if it's happening, mast cell activation syndrome, it's not adaptive. It's happening because of maybe genetic mutations in somebody's body, that their mast cells get more active, more jumpy, more degranulation and production of inflammation in the body. That is going to put the nervous system onto alert and into a state of protection. So in other words, we just did one aspect. People with activated mast cells that may or may not have the syndrome, if they have an infection, they have activated mast cells. If they have a chronic infection, like chronic Lyme, chronic Epstein-Barr, whatever, they're definitely going to have activated mast cells. If they have a mold toxicity, they're going to have activated mast cells. If they have,
Right.
a parasite or anything else, they are going to have activated mast cells chronically. And yeah, go ahead.
An autonomic nervous system that is in a chronic state of protection. This is the beauty. I think it's almost like it helps us to wrap this whole thing up, which is to say that whether it's the cause or it's preventing your healing, it almost doesn't matter. This is how we can create a program that, on the one hand, is so specific and individualized in terms of the person who's moving through it and how to get them through successfully. But that this is why if you have cancer, if you have diabetes, if you have a thyroid problem, if you have GI problems, if you're having like allergic reactions to everything, it's like all of it, whether caused by or now is just an obstacle to you being able to heal from it, autonomic nervous system needs to be addressed.
And just to underscore, we begin our programs with regulation of the autonomic nervous system so that we can start bringing about some of this neuroregulation of your organs. And then if you're in one of our memberships where you are also having care from Jessica and having functional medicine appointments here in Massachusetts, then that comes at a phase where,
Right.
there's some purchase in your body, or there's some neuroregulation on board. Some things have maybe dissipated some symptoms, because healing has been brought on board. And then you're at a point where it becomes more clear the areas where, okay, let's look a little bit more at that. Is an intervention warranted here? And the intervention's going to be able to get some traction in your body because you're able to access the ventral vagal pathways. Healing and restoration is possible, right? Like I used to think about it, Jess, as like you could have the most beautiful heirloom seed of potential, but if you're planting it in dead soil, it's not going to grow. So you could have the best supplement, the best detoxification protocol, the best medicine. And if you have no neuroregulation of your organs, you're just in complete survival of the time. Like, who cares that you're taking that medicine? So it's like we bring it on when your body can actually work with that, the elements that Jessica can help identify with.
Just to say what you said slightly differently, let's say we know you have toxicity right from the beginning. Maybe it's mold, maybe it's metals, maybe whatever. You've got a lot of amalgam fillings, mercury. Either, right, your body is going to go ahead and be able to detoxify, to your point, right? It's like it's already doing healthy detoxification on its own, or it becomes clear that we need to also intervene and assist it in detoxifying. But then the body's able to. It's not, the obstacle is not that there's no regulation of the organs, and therefore it can't happen anyway. So it's like the body, as we've been saying, wants to heal and oftentimes does resolve things on its own, but then, we're able to actually make the interventions work.
And that's why I feel like coming in with the detox out the bat without neuroregulation on board, it's just like a waste of that time and money.
Or
honestly.
worsening.
Yeah, or it could worsen it, right? Which you have seen, Jessica, in care.
I've seen it in Michaela.
Again,
you try to push the
your body
system
wasn't ready, and so that's what we build in the healthy compost, right? Soil analogy, but like we help make fertile ground for the work to happen. And
that's a great segue, Christine, because our foundations class, which is the kind of functional medicine health education, that is a year-long program, I have designed, and Allie has super helped me with graphics and notes and wonderful handouts and slides. And also bouncing things off of, because I'm just a total verbal processor. And so poor Allie has to listen to me the whole time.
For me, I love it.
We have a lot of fun setting up these classes. So we have designed it to go through the body in the order that a person with chronic illness and chronic autonomic dysregulation would best be able to benefit from the interventions. Okay. And it is always interwoven with how important the autonomic nervous system regulation of the organ systems is involved here, right? So reminders to do your autonomic nervous system exercises from your restoring class, or listen to your SSP balance, or reach for connection, remember to have context, etc. We back up your education that you're receiving from Michaela and Christine, and we kind of bring about the education of again, that order, like inflammation. Right now your body's on fire. How do you start by getting a little bit of inroads there? How do you make sure that your body has the molecules needed to allow resolution once your nervous system will allow that resolution of inflammation? And then moving forward into gut, because a ton of the immune system is in the gut. And I don't think we have ready for you a slide today, but if you were to look on our website and see our little triangle that has autonomic nervous system regulation as the broad bottom of the triangle, and then we have gut health and immune regulation, healthy immune function on the other legs of the triangle. And so these are like the very foundational, wow, Christine, I'm impressed, but you have to find.
She was prepared for that.
No, I was prepared. Are you going to look for the triangle?
Sorry, I was muted too. I was trying to look for it, not share it. Sorry, everybody.
Here. Oh, okay, it is here. It is in there.
Okay.
Do you see it on slide 4? You can share it.
Now it won't let me share.
Oh, it won't.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you see autonomic nervous system regulation on the bottom of that triangle. And the reason that we created this triangle image, Michaela and I did when we were planning what is OCC and what are really our what are the foundations of how we're going to build health in people. We know this autonomic nervous system regulation is the foundation of it. And we hope we've hit that really home during this presentation. Now, gut health is a real leg because, as everybody by now knows, our microbiome has a huge impact on our immune function. 70 to 80% of our immune system is located right there at our gut. So in terms of how much inflammation is coming from kind of gut health or lack thereof, it's a huge amount. And so it is really integral in restoring health. We've got to build some gut health. But again, like Michaela was saying with SIBO or IBS or whatever, any of that, if you make some traction, but you don't regulate the autonomic nervous system, you're going to slide. And that's why these are the downward slopes of these triangles, it's a slippery slope away from health if you don't first or simultaneously build in that autonomic nervous system regulation so that the organ systems can function optimally. And then again, we have the immune function leg of the triangle as well. And this is kind of like people know about chronic infections and stuff. Sure, you can try to really beat up a chronic infection. You can try to stabilize an autoimmune disease. You can try to stabilize the mast cells. But again, if you don't work to regulate the autonomic nervous system, you're just going to slide again, or not even be able to stabilize the mast cells, but you're going to slide into more chronic inflammation. We love the image that Stephen Porges said about playing medical whack-a-mole if you don't actually get the autonomic nervous system regulation on board, because the symptoms will come up. You may cure one infection of Lyme or Babesia or something, but something else is going to pop up, because if the immune system is dysregulated, away from adequate T helper 1 pathogen fighting capacity and toward allergy and kind of a chronic just pro-inflammatory cascade, is going to lead toward autoimmune disease. This is predictable. And so we know we need to bring that autonomic nervous system regulation, that foundation of our triangle of health, on board so that we can stabilize all these other patterns and actually hold the gains that you get from all of your efforts in treating the gut, treating your infections, treating your liver, treating your lungs, whatever you need to treat. So, okay, thanks, Christine.
That image reminds me too, just to say, like, I was thinking about the gut, and it's reminding me of the cabbage again. You're working on the gut, but if you have intestinal permeability, then it's necessarily messing with your immune system, because things are getting into your bloodstream that shouldn't be there, and how all of it really is, it is working together on all three of those things, those pillars.
Yeah, so we at OCC, we like to talk about functional medicine with the analogy of a cabbage rather than an onion. A lot of folks have used like layers of the onion as the analogy of, sure, you treat this thing and then you find out that there's something under it. And that really isn't complex enough to describe what's really happening, because of the way that the autonomic nervous system actually impacts every single thing. Literally, where you're allowed to spend your energy in your body is determined by the autonomic nervous system. So you can be putting in things that you want to do something, you want your body to kill this pathogen, or you want your body to let go of these toxins, or you want your body to get rid of the inflammation in your lungs. It's not going to happen if the nervous system says no to that. I don't care what you're putting in. It's not going to happen if the nervous system says no. We like to call the autonomic nervous system the master switch, because it really is determining where your resources can be spent in your body. So this is the context of the Foundations of Health class that we deliver. We're in the process of getting it to where it will be a hybrid class where people will be able to watch the lecture portions at their own pace, and then come together live to be able to discuss and have questions for me, etc.
And that will be available at some point then to people anywhere in the country.
Well, not the live with me won't.
Not
be.
the live
Eventually,
part, but the online,
be
right? The asynchronous part.
Yes, but we don't have details on that yet.
Stay tuned for more.
I would love to just say that the autonomic nervous system, this is coming to me now as I'm just thinking about it, but we talk a lot about safety, and yes, the autonomic nervous system, it wants to keep us safe. But there is a way where when we're in a state of protection and we're prioritizing survival, that being late for an appointment really is allocating the same resources as if there's a bear, or the saber-toothed tiger really is that example. And that it's kind of like, none of this other stuff matters if I don't make it to the next moment. So it's a lifetime of needing to get to the next moment and not supplying any of the energy to these longer term things. That's what dysregulation does. It's prioritizing, okay, we've got an infection, like we have food to digest, all of that can wait if I need to survive. But the problem is that we're living in a culture that is promoting that same biology as if you're staring down like an actual threat to your survival right now, when really this is this chronic state that we're in. I have a lot of work to do, and the kids are coming home, and I'm exhausted, and there's dinner to be made. And it's like we have to really understand that that's what's happening. And over a period of time, there are consequences in terms of our physiologic health.
Yes, absolutely. That's how you get sick, basically. Our culture, you know.
Yeah,
and people can see our previous live streams in terms of really getting into the biology of how do we get so sick, and then everything we're describing today is our slow process of really moving us towards what our biology is designed to do. Our body knows how to stay in a healthy balance, and our body knows how to heal. You know, we have like our homeostasis is where there's a pathogen. Okay, let's work with it. Let's bring on the resources to heal, and now let's resolve it, right? Like, so we're moving us back towards that. And Jess's class, just to say some of the way Jess has been explaining the slide, you know, her articulation of the biology, it's a year of classes where you get Jess's brilliance and really understanding these concepts so you can understand what's happening in your body, and then you're empowered to make choices. If you're working with Jess as a provider here or a provider somewhere else, to say, okay, I have this information, I have this understanding, I want to work in this way towards more healing for this part of my body, because you understand the autonomic nervous system and all what's happening in the gut, what's happening in the immune system, what you need on board to resolve inflammation. All of this is in the foundations class.
And I just want to say, so we've set it up in a way that it's a resource to always go back to, right? It's enough of a body-wide education for a person in our type of population situation, that you can go back and problem solve. Because the thing is that, yay, you're going to get well, right? You're going to experience the gains. Mostly people are not all the way well by the time they leave us, but they are getting there. They're way better, and they're getting there because it took years to get sick, and it takes years to get better. But once it's obvious you're on the path, you know, you feel like $1 million comparatively, and we know your bodies are continuing to heal. But you know, life happens, right? Stressful things happen, and old patterns might creep back in, or, you know, whatever, a work situation, a relationship situation, whatever. You may find yourself with one of your body's vulnerabilities showing up again in some type of not well state. And the resources that you will have obtained will serve you to be able to actually go through and figure out, what is it that is happening? Why is this happening to me again? Right? You'll have the context. You will have been taught the context. And yes, it's a lot of science, but it's not just for science geeks. I really believe that we teach this stuff in ways that is accessible to all types of people. Even if you do not consider yourself with any kind of science brain. That's not to say I won't say some stuff that will feel like too much, but you don't have to learn that stuff. I say it so that those who want to learn it can, but you don't have to. Okay, the notes and the guidance and the ways to, you know, the questions that you should be asking yourself, those will work for you. you will be able to figure out, oh, wow, this is what's currently going on. And again, this is how we navigate out of this place. We've done it before, we can do it again. And so really, I like to say that our foundation slides and handouts are like a manual for life. And so too, with Michaela's restoring class.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
there are a manual for life. And between the two, it's like you're almost unstoppable because you'll have your nervous system and your body like tuned back up. So that's basically what Foundations is. Getting in eventually later in the year into some more nitty gritty about liver detox and metabolic health and these types of more individual things, hormones and whatnot. And then of course the one-on-one appointments with me are one-on-one appointments with a functional medicine nurse practitioner. So in an ideal world, it's like people have learned something in Foundations that they're like, ooh, this, I really want to know how to do this in my own body. I do think this is a challenge for me, or this seems to be where my digestion is off. Let's work on this. So sometimes we're reviewing labs, sometimes we're talking. A lot of times we're talking about how the autonomic nervous system is impacting what the physical challenges that you're bringing to me. I don't know what the next word should have been in that sentence because it was a multi-part sentence. But anyway, how your nervous system is affecting this, and we problem solve nervous system stuff too in my visits. But anyway, that's how it goes. We kind of make like an outline for obviously where you want to go. What are your main symptoms that are the most bothersome to you? I filter that through what I understand about the immune system and the autonomic nervous system and, all the other aspects of the physiology processes in your body. And then, we kind of go on a journey through the healing process, again, as your nervous system allows.
Yeah, I think a way of describing what you're like, you have a true gift of really listening in such a way that it's like helping to interpret what the body is trying to communicate. And often that means trying something and having the body speak up in whatever ways. And then you're able to like, you have developed a way of really, this is what this usually means. And it helps to guide the next steps in what direction to take. In a really beautiful way that I know our members are so thankful. And
I like to say that we're gathering data.
Yeah.
So we may, we don't just randomly try interventions. Okay, that's not a thing. We very carefully choose an intervention to try, based on your own experience, your symptoms, what I know to be true, your labs, etc., and what I know about your current situation, autonomically speaking, and carefully try something. And basically, no matter what response you have to that, that is an important data piece that then, I add to the kind of puzzle of your individual situation. And even if something makes you feel terrible, it's likely that is information to me. Oh, it stirred up this. And so it's not that this thing that we tried is something you should throw away and never ever try again in your life. It's that we now have discovered a pathway that needs to be cleared before we can actually benefit from this particular intervention. And so that's the layers of the cabbage that we're talking about, right? It's like, I really, really like, Michaela, I like what you just said about that. I have a way of listening to what the body is trying to tell us, because those are the clues that help us get as quickly as possible to healing. And what I was just describing with like a trial of something, that's what we're talking about, right? What is the body speaking up about in response to this thing? I'm not generally recommending, a supplement that has a million different ingredients in it, because if you don't feel good from it, I don't know exactly which one of the things in it made you not feel good. So I'm having a harder time deducing what the body's speaking up and trying to tell me isn't working from that. And so, especially at the beginning, we're usually trying, a single thing that I expect this to happen. But if this happens, I know it means this or this.
And then we're removing obstacles. Yet again, we're removing obstacles to being able to heal. That's what both of us are doing.
Yes, we're peeling the cabbage leaves so carefully so that, we can uncover and get down to the health that you're looking for.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at the time and I would like to help move us along in wrapping it up. One of the things that we also have is something called open office hours, and twice a month, people who have a functional medicine package with us, a membership with us, are able to attend and ask all sorts of questions related to that kind of care. And twice a month, everyone, including the Autonomic Nervous System member folks, are able to come and ask questions related to anything autonomic nervous system related. It's an opportunity to really be in community with this larger, not just your cohort of people that you would recognize, but this larger OCC community. It's really a lot of fun. Actually, we have it on Monday nights. Allie's there most nights. All the three of us, myself, Jessica, and Allie, are there and able to answer questions, and just really we have a lot of fun. We were doing jokes the other night to end the evening, but so that's another way that we're holding people after the fact, after their care, maybe whatever membership they've had is coming to an end, but there's still an opportunity to engage that way. And also, we'll talk a little more about it. Christine, why don't we include that, and also the ideas that we have for building graduate support, people who have gone through our program and have really integrated the learning in the autonomic nervous system to be able to reach back and support the new folks that are just coming in, and that we have a program that is in development right now to offer some even more of an education to the people that are going to be doing the holding of the new people that are coming through, so that we can really, really support people and just have more success with the program. Really enhance the efficacy and the holding and the swiftness. It's a very slow process, which is part of why it's how do we keep encouraging it along in a way that, makes people feel better sooner, really.
And the open office hours is this another moment for, you said community, but that connection where you feel, so you have the people in your restoring class, you have people maybe in group coaching, you have foundations people, and then you go to open office hours. Oh, you're in this group and you're in that. And so you start feeling the layers of this community, but you have connections with all of these people who are also on the same kind of journey that you're on, who are also working to regulate their autonomic nervous systems, also working to heal their physiologic health. And so the resonance with that, the learning, people ask a question, it would never occur to you to ask that question. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I learned so much. Wow. So there's all of these synergies that happen in open office hours and connections. And it's a space where all of this other learning happens. That's spontaneous, right? So in restoring and foundation, we're planning certain things. And then there's this synergy and the spontaneity that happens in open office hours, which really just enhances everything really beautifully. And people love it. People have a lot of fun, and people have connected across sort of classes and cohorts and been real supports for each other as well.
We've had people who are I don't have any questions. I'm just here to be with my people.
Just be with the OCC community and people. So we hope that we've taken a lot of time. So we've assumed you've paused many times. We hope you've gotten through everything. You can always go back. But thank you for sticking with us and really hearing. We think it's just valuable to really hear what these different elements are and what we're doing, especially if you're just learning about us, because what we do is so unique and different, and it's hard to describe and it's hard to kind of wrap your head around. And so we really hope this video helps you orient a little bit more to who we are, what we're doing, and how we could work together with you. And we'd love to meet you. We'd love to connect and see if we could partner together, if we can accompany you on this path of of healing and really restoring your body's own ability to do the healing that it really wants to do and that we know that it can do. So thank you
And for
very much.
us, we've done, it's been well over 2 hours now. And even still, there are a lot of details in some of the previous videos that get into things that I think are extremely helpful in making sense of what it is that we do and why it's effective, where other things, where healing has been difficult in other areas. So just to name that, as much as we've gotten into today, we ended up actually omitting a lot of the things that are covered in Anatomy of a Chronic Illness and also Desperate Patient Curious Provider. And then what do we have upcoming, Christine? There's another date upcoming.
Yes. We have our last planned one. We'll be doing more, but removing obstacles to healing, how to succeed at OCC. And that's going to be on Friday, February 9th. So people can join us for that too. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you guys.